Last week, we did the first two sections of the first chapter of the second section of Kima Kima, that the state of Israel is a positive commandment from the Torah. It started with mitzvah yishuv haaretz, that the mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael, which according to most Rishonim is a positive mitzvah in our time, even though the Rambam seems to disagree. But it can only be fulfilled properly when there is Jewish rule over Eretz Yisrael. We also discussed very briefly that it doesn't matter the type of Jewish rule. It doesn't matter whether it's one of the evil kings or one of the good kings. Either way, the mitzvah is fulfilled. We also talked about the various brachos that are said on seeing the cities of Yehuda, Yerushalayim, and the temple destroyed, and that the Mechaber and the Farshim and the Shulchan Aruch all agree that this bracha is said when non-Jews rule over these things. Then it's called destroyed, even if people are living in it. But if it is destroyed, no one's living in it in the cities of Yehuda or Yerushalayim or the temple, but Jews rule over them, then it is not considered destroyed, and you do not say the bracha. All right, that brings us up to page 200, Tisha B'Av Bisman Hadbais, Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, in the time of the temple. Now, we know that historically that Rosh Chodesh was sanctified through witnesses who saw the new moon, and they would come to Beis Din and testify that they had seen the first appearance of the new moon. They would be examined by the Beis Din and determined whether they had seen the end of the old moon or the beginning of the new moon and so on. And originally they would light torches on the tops of hilltops to spread the news until it reached Bavel, the Jews in exile, that they were informed in this way that the new moon had been declared. However, the heretics started lighting torches on the wrong times to confuse things, and therefore they stopped lighting torches and they started sending out messengers to inform people when Kiddush HaChodesh was. However, the sending messengers from Eretz Yisrael to Babylon was not such a simple matter. You couldn't make a straight trip in those days because the deserts, you had to go up into what's modern day Turkey and around what was of course known as the Fertile Crescent. And the agents would go on only certain months when it was absolutely necessary to know when Rosh Chodesh was. The Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah, our first source on today's sheet, talks about which months the messengers would go out. Shisha chodashim hashluchim yotzim. And for 6 different months, the messengers would go out. Al Nisan b'pnei Pesach, they would go out Rosh Chodesh Nisan because people had to know when Pesach would be. Al Av mipnei Tanis, they would go out on Av because of the fast, meaning Tisha B'Av. Al Elul mipnei Rosh Hashanah, and Elul before Rosh Hashanah. Because we know that Elul was always a 30-day month, so if you know when Rosh Chodesh Elul is, you know when Rosh Hashanah will be. Al Tishrei mipnei Tikanos Moedos, they would go out on Tishrei so people would know exactly when all the holidays fell. Al Kislev mipnei Chanukah, for Kislev they would go out for Chanukah. Ve'al Adar mipnei Purim, and on Adar they would go so people would know in Purim. V'kshaya Beis Hamikdash Kayim yotzin af al Ir mipnei Pesach Katan, and when the temple was standing, they would also go out on Iyar for Pesach Katan. When you look at the Mishnah, it seems that there's a contradiction. In the beginning of the Mishnah, it mentions that for the month of Av, it was necessary to send out the agents so that people would know when the fast of Tisha B'Av was. But as the Mishnah continues, it says explicitly in the last one that when the temple was standing, they also went on another month because of Pesach Katan for Iyar. So it comes out when the temple was standing, they went out for 7 months, and when the temple wasn't standing, they went out 6 months. So this tells us that when the temple was standing, they would also go out on Av so that people would know when to fast during Tisha B'Av. But this fast is for the destruction of the temple. How is it possible that they're fasting for the destruction of the temple when the temple itself was standing in where it's supposed to be? True. We can say that the Mishnah is, when the Beis Hamikdash was standing, they went on out for Iyar and not Av. So that the beginning of the Mishnah is talking about when the temple is destroyed. And the end of the Mishnah is saying the change when the temple is standing. But the Rambam did not understand it thus. And in his commentary on the Mishnah, he writes explicitly that when the Beis Hamikdash was standing, they fasted on Tisha B'Av. The source number 2, the Rambam Pirush Mishnayos. U'b'bayis sheni, and in the second temple, lo hayu mis'anin, lo asiri b'teves, lo shivasar b'tammuz. Not on the 10th of Teves, and not on the 17th of Tammuz. El harotze yisane, or shelo yisane. If you want to fast, you fast, or if you want to fast, you don't fast. Lefichach lo hayu yotzim al Teves ve'al Tammuz. That's why the messengers wouldn't go out for either Teves or Tammuz. V'hayu misanin b'Tisha B'Av. But nonetheless, no matter how you look at it, they would fast on Tisha B'Av. So too the Tashbates, Rav Shimon ben Tzemach Duran, is also bothered by the words of the Rambam. And he writes as follows. Perush Mishnayos le Rambam Zal. Risi davar tema. When I was reading the commentary of the Rambam on the Mishnayos, I saw something that was made difficult, wondrous. Shum Mefarisham should be Mehem Mikdash Hayom Misanin Ba'av. That in the times of the temple they would fast in Av. Umisanin Umasnisin, and our Mishnah reads, Dal Shisha Chodashim Shluchim Yotzim Ditznan, and 6 months the agents would go out, as it says, Al Av Mipnei Atanis, they would go out on Av because of the fast. Mefarish La Av Bisman Beis Hamikdash Kayim. So we see from here that even when the temple is standing, the Efshar the Farishkim, but it's impossible to explain it this way. And he gives an explanation, which you can look at it on your own if you want, if you give it in my source, and he continues. Binirei Shemash Gasav Rav Zal. So it appears to me that what the Rav was writing here, that they fasted on Tisha B'Av, appears to be a scribal error, and the Rambam should not have written such a thing. According to him, the difficulties in the Rambam are so great, that it's better to say that the Rambam didn't write this and a later scribe made a mistake. Let us look, or try to look, in the words of the Gemara to clarify where the Rambam gets this. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Chesam Beis, judges why the months of Tammuz and Teves there were no agents going out to inform people when Kiddush Chodesh was, so that they should know when to fast on Shivasar B'Tammuz or Asar B'Teves, where on Rosh Chodesh Av they did go out, like we've seen in the Mishnah above. Rav Chana bar Bizna b'shem Rav Shimon Chasida medayik miloshen Hanavi Zachariah. That Rav Chana bar Bizna said in the name of Shimon Chasida, "My dichsiv, what does the pasuk mean when it says Ko Amar Hashem Tzivakos? Thus said the Lord of hosts, Tzom ha'revi'i v'tzom ha'chamishi v'tzom ha'shvi'i v'tzom ha'asiri yeh lebeis Yehuda l'sason u'lesimcha." That thus says the Lord of hosts, the fast of the 4th month, which is Shivasar the Tammuz, the fast of the 5th month, which is Tisha B'Av, v'tzom ha'shvi, the fast of Tzom Gedalia, v'tzom ha'asiri, which is Asar B'Teves, will be for the house of Israel days of happiness and rejoicing. It's pasuk in Zechariah, Perek Ches, pasuk Yutes. Kari lahu tzom, v'kari lahu simcha, v'sason v'simcha. So we see that we call it a fast, and we also call it rejoicing, right? So the Navi is calling these apparently two opposite things. That is to say, even though there's a tzom, there's also sason and simcha. How does this work out? Bisman sheyeh shalom Ye l'sason l'simcha, ein shalom tzom. When there's peace, it's sason and simcha, rejoicing and happiness. When there's no peace, it's a fast. Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa explains as follows: Bisman sheyesh shalom yu l'sason v'simcha. At a time when there is peace, there will be days of happiness and rejoicing. Yesh shmad, when there is religious persecution, tzom, it will be a fast. Ein shmad ve'ein shalom, when there's no religious persecution and there's no peace. Ratzu misanim, ratzu ein misanim. If people want, they can fast. If people want, they don't have to fast. So Rav Papa explains that there are three possibilities. When we have peace, when everything's going properly, then the fasts become happiness and rejoicing. When there are decrees against us, there's an absolute obligation to fast, even though the temple's standing. When it's in between, it's not so good and it's not so bad. There's no heavy persecution. Taxes are bad, whatever. But there's no good peace. It's neither good nor bad. Then it depends upon what Israel wants to do. The Gemara understands the Mishnah is dealing with the situation when the fasts were given to the choice of the people. That is, it was a discretionary fast. And for such a thing, there was no necessity for the people the agents to go out, the shluchim to go out to inform people when the Gemara was. So the Gemara, when these discretionary fasts would be. So the Gemara continues, Ihachi, if so, Tisha B'Av Nami. All of these things should also be true of Tisha B'Av, meaning Tisha B'Av should be a discretionary fast as well. Or it depends on the circumstance. If there's shalom there, then there shouldn't be a fast. If there's peace, there shouldn't be a fast. If there's religious persecution, then there's a required fast. If it's neither one nor the other, then it's discretionary. People can do what they want. Amar Rav Papa says, Shani Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is bad. Hoil v'huchpalu bo tzaros, because there are many difficulties that fell on this day. Damar Mar is the master. Tisha B'Av charav bayis b'rishona v'shniya. Tisha B'Av was on Tisha B'Av, the temple was destroyed the first and second time. Nilkada Beitar was captured. V'nechresha ha'ir, the Romans sold salt into the city of Jerusalem. It's interesting that only in our time has the salt been washed away by the millennia of rains and so on, and things have started to grow in the soil around Jerusalem again. So Rashi explains this as follows: Shiyeh Shalom, when there's peace. She'ein yad hagoyim tekifa al Yisrael. What does that mean? The non-Jews are not ruling over the Jews. According to Rashi, the definition of Shalom is that Israel is free from non-Jewish rule over the land of Israel. There is independent Jewish rule in our land. Rabbeinu Hananel explains in source 6 slightly differently. Bisman sheyeh shalom, when there's peace. Kolomar, kol zman shebeis hamikdash kayim. That is that the temple is standing. If the temple is standing, it's a situation of shalom. The Svas Emes, in his Chedushim and Shas, is looking for a source that as we learned the Rambam in the very, very beginning. V'nira demefarish, and it appears properly to explain the Rambam. Tahana marinim bisman sheyeh shalom, that what is it that the Gemara is saying when it says at a time when there is peace? Yu l'sason v'lesimcha, that the fast will be like a festival for happiness and rejoicing. Hainu kshamalchus biyad Yisrael, that is when the dominion is in the hands of Israel. Kinemefarish Rashi, like Rashi explains. Avak shayu kufufim tachas yad umos, But when they are subjugated under the hands of the nations, Dainu b'mei Malchus Paras uv'mei Yavan, that is to say, during the time of the Persian rule at the beginning of the Second Temple, and the Greek rule later on, Afilu b'zman shebeis hamikdash bechlal ratzu misanin. Even though the temple is standing, nonetheless, if they want, they can fast. Ubezei asi shapir lashon af al iyar, and this is why it says even for iyar. Demashma de gam al kol elu dileel hayu yotzim. It is that on all of these previous days they went out, and one more, meaning 7 times a year. The Sfas Emes explains the Rambam understood the concept of peace like Rashi. That is Jewish rule. And Shalom, when Israel rules over their land, creates a situation where the fast days are reversed to festivals, and one may not fast upon them. However, most of the period of the Second Temple, Israel was given under foreign rule, originally under the Persian rule, and after that under the Greek rule, Roman rule. Because of this, the Rambam felt that in the Second Temple, Israel also fasted, and they had to fast on Tisha B'Av. Even though the temple was still standing, the Kohanim were doing their avodah, doing the service, the sacrifices. The Levim were singing, and Israel was standing watching. Israel fasted for the destruction and the loss of Jewish rule in Eretz Yisrael. This thing teaches us to value properly what Jewish rule means over its land. The next section, Chazra Malchus L'Yisrael, that the dominion returned to Israel. The Rambam in the beginning of Hilchos Chanukah, Hilchos Megillah Chanukah, Perek Gimel, Halacha Aleph, before he starts to explain the mitzvahs of Chanukah, he explains over what the festival of Chanukah was established. Source 1. B'Bayis Sheni, in the Second Temple times, Malchu Yavan, when Greece ruled, Gazru Gezeres al Yisrael, they made decrees over Yisrael. Ubitlu datam, they negated their religion. V'lo hinichu osam lasok b'Torah u'mitzvos, they would not allow them to be involved in Torah and mitzvos. Upashtu yadam v'mamonam, they reached their hands out against the Jewish money, u'b'benosehem, and against their daughters. V'nichnesu leheichal, they entered the palace, the temple. Upirtzu bo pratzos, and they were immodest there. V'timu hataros, they made impure that which was pure. V'tzar lehem liYisrael, and they made it difficult for Yisrael me'od, very much. Mipneihem, because of them. V'lachatzum lachatz gadol, and they really pressed them. We are given an expression of the cruelness with which the Greeks oppressed the Jews in those difficult times, physically and also spiritually. And the Rambam continues, Ad shirichem alehem elokei avoseinu, until the God of our forefathers had mercy upon them. V'hoshiam miyadam, and he saved them from their hands. V'hitzilam, and he brought another word for saved. V'gavru b'nei Hashmonai hakohanim hagdolim, and the sons of Hashmonaim, the high priests, became stronger. V'hargum, and they killed them, the Greeks. V'yoshiu Yisrael miyadam, and they saved Israel from their hands. V'yamidu melech min hakohanim, and they made a king from among the Kohanim. V'chazru malchus l'Yisrael yeser al masayim shana ad chorban hasheni, and the dominion returned to Israel for more than 200 years until the destruction of the Second Temple. The Rambam talks about two parallel aspects to Chanukah. The first one is that the kingdom returned to Israel. In the period of the Hashmonaim, they threw off foreign rule. Eretz Yisrael returned to Jewish rule. And because up to this time it had been in the hands of non-Jewish rule. The second point is the miracle of the oil. And that he only refers to in the second parak, in the second halacha in the third parak of Hilchos Megillah B'Chanukah. So here we understand the importance that the Rambam gave to Jewish rule in the land. That the first primary reason why Hanukkah is a Chag is because, according to the Rambam, Chazra Malchus L'Yisrael, that the kingdom was returned to the hands of Israel. The government was returned to Jewish hands. Another thing we can learn out of the Rambam, and this is important for the period that we live in. The Rambam wrote only V'chazra Malchus L'Yisrael, the kingdom returned to Israel. Hainu Yecholim Lachshov she Simcha Gdola hi Mishum shemalchus shechazra Mloch. That is, that the great happiness was because the kingdom returned and they could rule again. That the kings were great tzaddikim, so therefore we were happy about it. As the Ramban wrote, that the Hashmonaim were Hasidei Elyon, were the pious ones from to the one on high, Anshe Kodesh, holy men, Kohanim tzaddikim, righteous Kohanim, that they fought with the Greeks. They gave their lives so that the nation of Israel could worship God completely. But the Rambam does not use these words. He adds that the kingdom returned to Israel more than 200 years until the destruction of the Second Temple. So the entire time of Jewish rule, from the time of Hanukkah until the destruction of the Second Temple, is a portion of the reason why we established Hanukkah. But this is about difficult, because we know that many of the Hashmonaim kings, that the first ones were tzaddikim, but their heirs did not follow their pathways. You can find similar things in Tanakh. And within a few years, the kingdom of the Hashmonaim became a kingdom of tzaddukim that were opposed to the words of Chazal and the Torah, the oral Torah. And more than this, one of the kings that ruled at that time was Alexander Yanai, where the Gemara testifies that he did cruel, awesome things. And the same thing was true of Horus. And nonetheless, the Rambam establishes that we give thanks because the kingdom returned to Israel for more than 200 years, which included the rule of these kings. Together, it's about 65 years or so. So from this, we see that there is a value to Jewish independence, even if it's not complete, and even if it has difficulties and blemishes. There is no doubt that the Rambam understood the negative aspects of the continuation of the Hasmonean rule, because the words are so told to us explicitly in the Gemara. Nonetheless, the Rambam says himself in his Perush in the Mishnah, in Yuma, where he's talking about such a things. Aval b'mikdash sheni, during the Second Temple time, shayu bo kol ha'inyanim bilti ushlamim, where everything wasn't complete, kamoshi yadata, like you know. Ve'amalachim lo hayu holchim lifnei ha'masoras ha'yeshara, and the kings did not walk in the true righteous path. Vayu midim kohanim gedolim b'koach, they would with force appoint people to the office of high priest. Afal pi she'enam ruyim l'kach, even though they weren't fit for this job of being the high priest. So the Rambam stresses that the kingdom returned to Israel more than 200 years until the destruction of the Second Temple. And nonetheless, because of this alone, it was fitting to establish Hanukkah as a festival where we thank God. No matter what the situation is, Jewish rule over the land is better than the rule of non-Jews. Geula nutelas atzmaut. a redemption that is failing in its independence. When we look at the history of Israel, we understand there are three redemptions. There's going out of Egypt and the entry into the land. There was the return to Eretz Israel in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, and the final redemption. In different places we can see that there is a relationship between the second redemption that is not identified completely with the final redemption. The second redemption was lacking in general, in very serious ways, for Jewish rule and freedom from the nations around us. We have many places where we can see this. We see it in the prophet Haggai, that was prophesizing toward the very end of the exile, the Babylonian exile, and through the construction of the temple. And he says, Kiko amar Hashem tzvakos, thus says the Lord of hosts, Odacha as me'ati, ve'ani marish et shemayim v'et haaretz, v'et yam v'et harava. A little more, and I will shake the heavens and earth, and the oceans and dry land. V'hirashti et kol hagoyim, and I shook up the nations. Uvau chemdas kol hagoyim, and they came to that which was beloved of all the nations. U'melesi esabayis hazei kavod, and I filled this house with honor. Amar Hashem tzvakos. Thus says the Lord of hosts. A slightly different pasuk to understand. Rashi doesn't explain it in the place. However, in his commentary on Sanhedrin, he says as follows. Source 2. Od achas me'ati, one more a little bit. So Rashi writes, Ubedvuas chagei kasiv, shehaya misnabe k'shiyatzu Yisrael migalus Bavel v'yivnei ba'es hamikdash. That he is prophesying when they are going out from Babylon to build the temple. V'hainu od achas me'ati, and there is another one that's a little bit. Kavod eten lehem liYisrael, I will give honor to Israel. Ikar kvodam uperam shelo shalta behem uma lo niskayim kol kach. That what does it mean? There is a little bit more of one. A little more honor to Israel. The principal honor and glory that they have, that no nation could rule over them, was not fulfilled so much during the Second Temple. The Navi Haggai guarantees for us that the Second Temple will have a little bit of honor, me'at kavod. That is to say, that according to his words, that during the time period where the temple was their principal honor and glory, that nonetheless it was lacking. It was lacking its principle. This was our honor and glory, but it wasn't what it should have been or could have been, as when Israel has its own independent rule. And the Second Temple, this honor continues only for a short period of time, the period of the Hashmonean rule. The rest of the time of the Second Temple, strangers ruled over it. This we find in the words of the Ramban. The Ramban writes in his commentary to Parshas Azinu that the Parshas Azinu is a summary of the history of the Jewish people from beginning to end. When he's talking about the 43rd pasuk that says, Harneni goyim amo, kidam avadav yakum v'nakam yashiv l'tzarav v'chiper ad maso amo, that we behold him, his nation among the nations, the blood of his servants will stand up and his vengeance will be reaped upon his enemies, and the land will atone for his people. So the Ramban writes on this, source 4, V'zei davar barur, and this is clear, ki al ha'geula ha'atita yaftiach, that this is a guarantee for the third, the final redemption. The end of Parshas Hatzinu is not talking about the return to Zion from the exile in Babylon, but their return in the final, the future redemption. The Ramban explains this as he continues. Source 5. Ki binyan ba'isheni lo harnini goyim amo. When the second temple was built, we did not have this, the nations being subservient to his nation. Rak la'agu aleihim, but they only laughed at them. As it says, Ma Yehudim ha'amlulim osim. What are these pathetic Jews doing? Is, I suppose, the best translation. Vayu gdoleihem avadim beheichal melech Bavel. Their greatest ones were still servants in the kings of Bavel, meaning Persia. V'kulam meshubadim lo, and all of them were enslaved to him. Uv'yamim hahem lo hishiv nakam l'tzarav. In that time, there was no vengeance taken on the oppressors of the Jews. V'lo v'chiperat masoad mo, and the land wasn't atoned for. The future redemption will include this independence from the yoke of the non-Jews, from the enslavement to them. And only this redemption will eventually be complete and true. The return to Zion from the exile of Babel did not fulfill this requirement. In another way we can see it in the prophecy of Yeshayahu, Perek Yud Aleph, Pasuk Yud Aleph, V'haya b'yom hahu, and it was in that day, source 6, Yosif Adonai shenis yado liknos es shar amo, that God will reach out his hand again to require the remnant of his people, Asher yishaer me'ashur mi'mitzrayim, that remains from Assyria and from Egypt, Patros umikush, I'm not sure what Patros is, and from Ethiopia. Elim umishinar, Elim are islands in the Mediterranean, I believe, and Shinar is the one of the areas that's today Jordan. Ume Hamas, Ume Hayam, and from Hamas, which is a city also in Jordan, and from the islands of the ocean. The Navi mentions that in the future to come, Biyom Hahu, on that day, God will increase the redemption of the Jews a second time. Why only a second time? It should have said the third time. The first time when they came out of Egypt, the second time when they left Babel, and the third time should be the third final redemption. Rashi notes this in his comment on Chumash. Shenis, the second time. Kamosh Kan'am mi'Mitzrayim, just like they acquired when they went up from Egypt. Shahisa Gu'ulasam Brurav Ein Shibud, that their redemption was clear without any enslavement. Aval Gu'ulas Ba'ishena Eina Min Haminyan, but the second redemption in the second temple, it doesn't count. Shari Mushubadim Hayu L'Koresh, because they were still enslaved to Koresh at this point in time. They weren't free yet. So we see that this principle returns time after time. The second redemption doesn't really count. There is a temple, but Rashi's saying it's still lacking because it wasn't complete. Because even though they were allowed to return to Eretz Yisrael, even though they were allowed to build the temple, they still didn't have that additional sanctity added on it. And this is what we say, in fact, in the Kedushan Musaf on Shabbos. V'hu yigalenu shenis, and he will redeem us a second time like he did the first time. Why not a third time? Because the second Geula was lacking in such an important thing, that we were not freed from the nations around us, and therefore there was lacking Jewish rule in Eretz Yisrael. Therefore, it's not a proper redemption. when we're talking about the meaning, the understanding, the feeling of independence, liberation, freedom from the yoke of others, along with the complete geula, we are reminded of the words from the Gemara in Brachos, source 8. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Arba tzrichim lahodos. 4 people have to give thanks. Birkas HaGomer. Yordei Hayam, people that went down to travel in the ocean and came back. Holchei Midbaros, someone that traveled through a desert. Umishaya Cholev V'nisrape, someone that was sick and was cured. Umishaya Chavush B'Beis Asurim V'Yatza, and someone that was imprisoned in jail and let free. The source of this is the 107th Psalm, in which we talk about our prayers. It's added to our prayers. It's the opening prayer on the night of Yom Ha'atzmaut. The Marsha, in his Chidushei Agados, in his comments on the parable parts of Shas, on this Gemara, talks about the source of it, where it comes from. The remez b'zei hakavana shamarnu b'sod arba kosod. This is to hint to something that we talked about as the foundation, the hidden meaning of the 4 cups. Shenigalu b'geulas Mitzrayim mikol arbas hama'ikim. That when they were redeemed from Egypt, they were redeemed in all 4 of these ways. The 4 people that have to give thanks are parallel to Israel when they left Egypt, that they were completely saved by God. And each one of these salvations, ways that the Jews were saved, the Arba Lashonos of Geula, or the Arba Geulos, the 4 languages of redemption, 4 redemptions, we drink a different cup during the Seder night. Yordei Hayam, those that go down to the ocean, refers to Israel being saved at Kriyas Yamsuf. Holchei Midbaros, those that walk through the desert, is talking about those that were saved from thirst in the desert through the Bear Miriam, the Miriam's well that went with them. Chole, what does it mean the person was sick? What is this talking about? This is the sickness of Israel when the Torah was given at Mount Sinai. It's a spiritual sickness, perhaps. And the last one that the Gemara mentioned, someone that was in prison and released. This is what we're looking for to find out in salvation, in release from prison, is to be in control of oneself. In Israel, Egypt was under the hands of Egypt. In Egypt, Israel was under the hands of the Egyptians. However, when Israel becomes independent, when it comes out, they're becoming free. They're leaving their prison. Mitzrayim is a place that's difficult. The Marsha is saying on this, Haravis mi shahaya chavush, someone that is locked in prison. Shelo ba'u Yisrael lidei cherus. Gemura ad achar shekavshu Eretz Yisrael. That Israel did not become completely free until they conquered Eretz Yisrael. Shenital yad ha'oivim legamrei me'aleinu, when the hand of the enemies was completely removed from us. Ve'alzei nitaken kos revi'i. And this is what the 4th cup is about. The 4th cup is said over Hallel. It's said over this absolute freedom. Although we were free as soon as we went out of Egypt, it didn't become true freedom. It didn't become established freedom until there was the hand of our enemies was taken completely removed from our necks. And at that point, when we entered Eretz Yisrael and we had control over the land, we had control of ourselves, we had control over our destinies, that Israel can be considered as Chavush B'Beis Asurim V'Yatza, someone that was locked up in prison and escaped.